He's one ugly motherfucker. That's right. The Predator's up on Alien Autopsy.
What exactly are we dealing with here?
Old and busted, new hotness.
And what could that possibly be?
Alien.
They do exist.
You boys have been watching the X-Files too much.
It is possible.
Welcome to Alien Autopsy, the only pop culture podcast where people gab on about aliens. Probably, in the galaxy at least. Hi, I'm Hayden, I'm your host, and this week we're going to dive deep into a fictional extraterrestrial, and we're going to cover everything you need to know to fit in at a Comic-Con. Today on my podcast, I have a special guest. He's the master of time and space and dimension, but I know him best as a writer and producer for our time together at MTV Canada. Welcome to the show, Rob Hynes. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
I actually had business cards that said Master of Time and Space when I was like 18. I got them in like a business card machine maker that just like, it was in a mall, and it was like £2, and it was in Scotland, and I paid £2 and I got like 15 or 20 business cards that said Master of Time and Space. I thought I would hand them out to girls at bars.
It's an old Steve Martin bit, the Master of Time, Space, and Dimension.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I love Steve Martin, and for some reason that one slipped through my pop culture grasp, so to speak.
I embrace the white-haired gentleman, so that's why I'm
fair enough. Yeah. This week on the show, we're talking about The Predator, which is one of film's greatest villains, I'd say. So when did you first watch Predator, and what was your first reaction?
I actually saw it in the theater in 1987.
Wow.
I saw it in the theater, and I wasn't a big Schwarzenegger guy, but I did see that one, and it kind of won me over because my first impression of it was it almost sort of satirizes the movies that he makes in a lot of ways. I mean, like, the team in the movie is impossibly macho.
Oh, it's so over the top. You got Ventura, you got
you have two
Billy.
governors.
There are
two governors in the movie, which is insane because, like, I mean, it could have been sponsored by like Balco Industries. Like, it's such a steroid movie, right?
Yeah.
But two of those guys ended up being governors. But the film is, it's so over. I mean, there's that one scene where they slap their arms together and it's just like a close up on sweaty muscles.
What's the matter? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils? Huh?
I was a big horror movie guy, and it really is in a lot of ways like a slasher flick, like Arnold is Final Girl almost.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really liked it when I first saw it, and I was really surprised because I think I kind of went to it a little bit reluctantly because, as I said, Schwarzenegger and Stallone, they just weren't my thing. And
right.
So I went to see that movie, and part of it was because I read Fangoria magazine, which was like sort of like a horror movie Bible. And Stan Winston, the famous special makeup effects guy, created the original Predator. So I think I'd seen the monster first.
Okay.
And that's kind of what the alien first. And that's sort of what lured me in.
Were there trailers that showed off the alien like that you saw like on TV?
Man, I don't remember. I honestly think I first saw him in Fangoria.
Oh, wow. So in the magazine itself, eh?
Yeah.
Just a still frame.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh, this is kind of a cool. And the movie does a great job of hiding the creature, really.
Magazines, by the way, for our younger audience members, are websites before there were websites. They're just printed out websites.
They're offline websites.
They're offline websites, yeah.
No Wi-Fi required.
No. And they stick together when certain issues would stick together, the pages. We're not getting into that.
Not Fangoria.
Not Fangoria. Well, for some people.
not my Fangoria.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, the movie impressed me when I first saw it. I thought it was much better than it deserved to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of subverted my expectations. I didn't, as I said, like, it was really like almost like a slasher movie. Like, they're being picked off one by one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're slowly learning what you're up against, and just like a slasher movie, they really took. I mean, it's part of the device because the alien has a cloaking device.
Yeah,
that you didn't really get a good look at him.
Yeah.
And then when you finally saw him, like in a theater, it was a big payoff.
Yeah.
So
like he's got dreads. Holy shit.
Well, there was a lot of controversy that there was sort of a latent racism in the concept of the character at the time.
Well, I feel like a lot of black culture gets othered pretty easily in pop culture, and I feel like, I mean, dreadlocks are just like par for the course. I feel like, but I don't think it's so over the top that it's like, I wouldn't ever call the movie racist. So, like specifically the alien, like the Predator, what about him was so imposing or over? What about him was most alien to you?
Well, generally, my issue with alien movies, period. I mean, E.T. kind of solved this, but I mean, just based on how effects were for a long time. Aliens were, they stood upright. They had 2 legs. They had 2 arms. They were the size of a human.
Yeah.
Like it was because it was always just a man in a rubber suit. Now, I think his name is Kevin Peter Hall, who played in the first 2 films. He was 7'2" or something. Like he looked like he was not of this world. And after, this came out in 87, so we were like 7 years into Arnold Schwarzenegger just, being the biggest, baddest man on the block. This movie looked like it was going to be a challenge. Like the alien looked imposing, and I was just intrigued. And the fact that once you actually see his face, it doesn't look like a man in a rubber suit. There was a lot going on. There was sort of a reptilian thing with the skin. I just thought it was a
mandibles too, like insectoid, right?
Schwarzenegger summed it up quite well.
You one ugly mother.
I was just intrigued by that they were doing something different. And I also there were a lot of alien movies that were like, are they here to help us? Are they here to I liked the idea that he was not here to help. And it was,
and they don't even interrogate that as a possibility. Like, it's just like right at the bat, this is a force of nature that's being reckoned with.
This had sort of been explored in a different way 15 years earlier. Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you watch that movie and there is like this sort of subtle thing going on where it's actually about the industry of farming animals for meat. And now they're going to be farming humans for meat. So I like the sort of play in Predator where it was like, it feels like it's a really unfair fight. He's come here and he's hunting these guys. Well, that's how a deer feels. The idea that you're going to go out hunting and you're a champion because you killed a deer. Good for you. So I kind of like the idea that he was like a trophy hunter.
Right.
And what he's hunting actually is the most skilled human killing machines he can find. And it's still not a fair fight. So there was something really intriguing that the alien was, it wasn't a will they or won't they, it was, he's clearly evil. But and I like the question it raises, is he evil, or is a hunter that goes out and kills a deer evil?
Right.
So that's what I thought was interesting. Like he's not even hunting them for meat.
No, I think he's hunting it for sport. And that's where I do think that is kind of like a little evil. Like, hunting versus hunting for survival, which is like different, which is like, when we talk about the movie, the franchise later, when you get to Prey, like that's a film that delineates the two very nicely in a way that's like very like well executed from an emotional and narrative perspective. But the first film, like they're all just the most badass mofos that you can get, and they're good, and then like they're picked off one at a time. But it's also it's like they're the predators for the gorillas that they're fighting, right? Like they're the ultimate badasses, and then there's a step above them is like this alien that's like they're not even aware of.
First, they don't understand that they're not the baddest guys on the block. They don't understand that there's something in the jungle that could be a bigger threat than them. And it's kind of cool to see once they start to realize that, how they start to fall apart. And there's just, I think it gets dismissed a lot as just being another Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie, but I think it really works on a different level. Also, interestingly, this is like deep dish nerdy. It's part of a cinematic universe because the jungle that they are in is a fictional country.
Okay.
It's the same country from the 1985 Schwarzenegger film Commando.
I love that you know that.
Like the dude is like, he's the bad guy in that is from a fictional South American country, and it's the same fictional South American country.
It was the same producer, right? Joel Silver?
Joel Silver, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he made Die Hard the next year with the director, John McTiernan, went from Predator right to Die Hard after that.
Was there a particular moment for you that elevated the Predator to pop culture royalty?
I think it's just the look of that character. Like a lot of the other, it's one of those things where if you were going to do like a collage or a montage of 80s films, I think you would go with the Predator over you would go. Schwarzenegger looks the same as he looks in a dozen other movies.
Yeah.
But the Predator has a very unique look. And one thing that's interesting, I think, that the franchise does is they understand that this is a species.
Yeah.
So, Predator 2, the Predator looks exactly the same. It's kind of like the Scream movies. Ghostface looks the same in all the movies, but it's a different person in every movie.
Yeah.
As the franchise goes on, they start to realize, the Predator should look a little different because this could be an older Predator. This could be, so they start to actually get into the look. The face is a little different. And which I think is interesting because they're exploring that this is whatever, we're calling it the Predator. That's not the name of the species, whatever it is.
Do you want to know what it is?
Yes, I do.
Yauta. YAUTJA or TJA. Oh my God, I cannot speak to save the life of me.
So it's spelled like it sounds.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I do like that they kind of they toy with the idea of that it should look different from film to film because it's not the same predator. Most alien movies we don't get to see a lot of variations on whatever that particular being is. Like all the creatures that get off the ship in Close Encounters, they look the same.
Mm-hmm.
E.T. gets on his ship with a bunch of other E.T.s that look pretty much the same.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's the xenomorphs from Aliens that have like the most potential to be different because they assume the genetic structure of whatever host they have, but they never really explore that except in Alien 3 when it becomes like a dog, right?
Well, and the Predator franchise eventually gets into the idea that they want human DNA to help sort of
that's from the Predators though.
kind of upgrade themselves a little, right?
That movie is not a good movie.
Did you find that it actually kind of reminds you a little bit of Iron Man 3 with the little kid and everything? And there's elements of it where I'm like, didn't he already make this movie?
Except he swapped out Christmas for Halloween.
Yes, because he didn't want it to be the same.
Well, because he's like, for those who don't know, Shane Black has a history of setting his movies at Christmas time, which is fine. It immediately creates like a tone and a feel to the movie that I think is like a shortcut to the audience to like, this is Christmas, I understand this. And it just heightens the stakes because it's all about family and getting home for Christmas and stuff like that. But
and Shane Black is in Predator.
Yeah, no, and I feel like that was the only reason they decided we're getting off topic, but that was the only reason they gave it to him in the first place. Like, did you write the first one? No, but you were in it. He's like, yeah. Well, you want to direct another one? I guess. Are you going to pay me? Like, yeah, we'll pay you a lot of money.
Oh, you got paid. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you did get paid. Yeah. Does the Predator hold up as a villain like today?
Yes, I think he absolutely does. Absolutely, he does. I mean, if that movie came out today, I don't think anyone would be like, that looks cheesy. Like the monster itself, the make. I mean, it's all practical too. It's all practical effects. It's 1987. I think it holds up 100%. And I think a lot of the heat signature vision that they use is kind of a clever little thing. And even the effects of when it's sort of cloaked in invisibility, they still work.
Yeah.
They work really well. And while it works story-wise, that's why he's so hard to hunt this guy, because he can literally be next to you without you knowing it. It works really well in the classic monster thing that we don't really get our reveal of what we're dealing with until the end. I think the original film, holds up incredibly well. Strangely, the sequel, which is only 3 years later, it's 1990, but it couldn't feel more 1980s. I mean, it's absurd, really, the sequel.
The second movie is ridiculous. I read an interview with Stephen Hopkins, the director of the second film, and he's like, this was my chance to make a balls-out action film, and I went for it. And I was like, I respect that. I don't love the results, but you can see that he was going for just like pure, crazy, unadulterated action. And like there's elements of that in the first film, like where they're just blowing stuff up like gratuitously. But like there's more of a narrative sense for it in the first film, whereas the second one just felt like they were just doing it for the sake of
and again, I think McTiernan in the first film, those scenes are part of what he's sort of satirizing these action films a little bit. Where, I mean, my favorite thing with Stephen Hopkins in the second film, he actually said in an interview, I was 29 years old, as if that's an excuse for...
Yeah, exactly.
And he had made, just before that, he had made Nightmare on Elm Street 5, so he came from a horror movie background as well. And Nightmare on Elm Street 5, narratively, really doesn't hold up at all. It's just a bunch of set pieces, and the set pieces are bigger, over-the-top Freddy Krueger sequences. And Predator 2 is almost a continuation of that. I mean, there's a scene in Predator 2 where a naked man is hanging upside down. Well, a massive gunfight goes out with a naked woman. I mean, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe that the second film was written by the same brothers that wrote the original.
Yeah.
And it feels like they don't even understand their own movie, which makes me really. The second one feels like a fever dream. Like, it's really weird.
Do you have a favorite Predator movie? Just while we're on the topic.
Yeah. I mean, I love the most recent one, Prey.
Prey was great.
I love Prey. I was really kind of blown away by it, and it's a great. I mean, it's a great example of It didn't even have to be a Predator film. That movie, the story of that movie could have had a different big baddie in it, and it would have been a great film. Because Prey, just to summarize for people, it's set in the early 1700s. There's a First Nations community that are dealing with, the French are coming. The fur trade is infringing on their land and infringing on the animals. And it's the story of a young girl that doesn't want to fall into the path that she's being expected for a young woman in this community in the 1700s. She wants to be a hunter. She wants to be a hunter. She wants to go out, and ultimately she ends up coming face to face with Predator. It's a terrific movie. It's a great journey. It might be better than the original Predator, but I'm going to stick with the original Predator as my favorite in the franchise. And I keep nailing this point again. I really do like it as
satire,
sort of an undercover satire. As someone who grew up in the 80s, despite looking impossibly young, those movies, like Commando to me is the best example of those movies. It's so ridiculous. It's so over the top. It's so dumb, but it's like dumb fun. And that's really, to me, Commando is where you trace back, the really dumb one-liners and stuff like that.
Don't call them dumb. They're clever one-liners.
Leave my friend alone. He's dead tired. My favorite one in that whole movie is though, Sully, remember when I said I'd kill you last?
You did. I lied.
But like this movie almost feels like, I think half the audience, or maybe 80% of the audience, could think it's just another one of those movies. I really feel like it operates on another level where it's satire. You have Carl Weathers in this. You got Apollo Creed is in the original Predator. Yeah.
Thanks.
They're monsters. These guys, they're monsters. So it's like, it's the opposite of the slasher film where it's like the little blonde girl that has to take down the killer. It's like, but they've just scaled up the killer so big. So I still think probably Predator is the best film in the series. I'll say this though. The first film and the last film, you could skip all the others.
Yeah.
I did skip the Alien vs. Predator movies. I just skipped those altogether.
I tried to rewatch them as preparation for this podcast, and they are so bad.
Yeah.
And I have a soft spot for versus movies. You got X versus Sever, Ballistic. You got Alien versus, or not Alien versus, you do have Alien versus Predator, but you also have Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah.
And you have Godzilla versus Kong. Like there's a good lineage of versus movies out there. And I'm a big fan of them, but those Alien versus Predator movies are dog shit.
Honestly, if you're in a boardroom and someone pitches you this movie, you're like, but neither of the characters have a personality.
Yeah.
And how do you do a versus movie where I'm not rooting for either of them?
I think the tagline was "Whoever wins, we lose." I'm like, that is just a fundamental misunderstanding of how films work.
I was shitting on Predator too,
Yeah.
but it's got a great tagline.
What is it?
I think it's like he's just in town. He's in town with a few days to kill. It's
That's
pretty
great.
good. The second film goes from the jungle to
Yeah.
Los Angeles, 1997.
It feels like someone said concrete jungle, and then just greenlit the movie based on
Honestly,
that idea.
I think that was from what I understand, the brothers, the Thomas brothers. I can't remember the name of the brothers.
Jim and John Thomas.
I'll give them credit that at least they went back to the original writers, which most of these sequels they don't even bother.
Yeah.
But I believe they came in and pitched like 5 different directions the sequel going, and one of them was the Predator in the Concrete Jungle, and they were like sold.
Yeah. They went with L.A., which is like less of a jungle than.
If you're going to set a movie in the future, it's odd to go, let's put it 7 years in the future.
Yeah. And then not have anything futuristic about the film. There's like, it looks like 1990. It does not look like, 1990, 1997. Like, I don't think if you take a look at the technology, they're both going to look old now, no matter what.
It's a weird choice. It's not like, Back to the Future 2, where 2015 had flying cars and.
Yeah. The most science fiction-y thing in Predator 2 is that people actually take the subway in L.A.
It's hard enough to find a seat, and if you find one, someone's either pissed in it or throwing up all over it.
Just from back to the first film, I just want to go through this. My favorite moments from the film, there's the long crawling shot up the trees, crawling shot up the trees to reveal Hawkins' body. Like that, to me, was one of the best, just like spine tingling shots in the whole movie, where you're just like, because it's so slow and it's like the buildup of it is so intense. When you see the blood dripping, and then you're like, what is happening? Where are we? When we're going so far up to the treetops, and you see the body like hanging down like above you. It's terrifying. Then there's the slow build of anticipation conjured by the score and editing in the build up to Billy's death.
Billy!
And then the third scene, which is my favorite is the mud scene.
Yes.
Which is always a great Halloween costume. You can just cover yourself in mud. Other people really love that.
One of the things that McTiernan does really well in the original is there's just a sense of dread.
Yeah.
Like the movie has this mounting sense of dread. I don't think anyone in the theater was like, I wonder if Arnold's going to win. So I'm not going to call it suspense, because I think we all know from just looking at the poster how the movie's going to end.
Yeah.
But there is a real sense of dread in that movie. And I like when, there's a thing that Hitchcock always does where the audience knows something that the characters don't.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like waiting for them to put it together. What Predator does well is we don't know either, So we're in the boots, the same shoes of these guys in the jungle, where we're like, what exactly is out there? And I like that they don't go too far in explaining the capabilities of the Predator.
No, it's all a mystery.
So we can't figure out, like, how could he beat him? Like, I'll be honest. I mean, like, even when he started covering himself with mud, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, he can block out the hate vision, like there were but I was like, you don't know what weapons he has. You don't know if he could fly. You don't, so there's this sense of dread that, like, the characters themselves start to feel doomed. I mean, what Billy does, like, Billy kind of snaps and goes off, and there's that part of the movie works really well. And there's considering it's in a massive expanse of a jungle, there is almost a claustrophobic sense of, like, you're doomed. Where do you go? What do you do? I find in a lot of horror movies, part of the fun is like, what would I do in this situation? And my feeling watching that is, what would I do? I'd die. That's what I would do. I would die in that situation.
I would be skinned, and I might have my spinal cord removed. Welcome to the dossier. So Predator first debuted in 1987 in the film Predator. They're a species called the Yayuta, as we said earlier, and they're a race of technologically advanced hunters that travel the galaxy for sport. Very simple. They are between 7 and 8 feet tall, so adjust your Tinder stats accordingly if you're into the tall people. Some goes up as far as 9 feet, which is pretty tall. And they weigh between 250 and 350 pounds, which is like actually a lot of muscle for someone that tall, I think. Their blood is a luminous phosphor. Oh my god, I can't read this. This is just facts. I don't know. This is not interesting. I was like, where are the facts? I thought that would be like the bulk of this show, but to me, it's like the least interesting part. Like all this stuff is because stuff comes from comic books that some people have read. There's a great Xenopedia article on it. This is where most of this information came from.
The blood is unique. The blood
is great. It's like it's because it's so other. Right? Like,
yes.
It's like between, I don't know which I prefer, like the Yayuta, like phosphorescent, like yellow blood, or the acid blood of the xenomorph. Like, both are very like, oh, this is like so unhuman and so utterly alien that on a fundamental like DNA level that like it just makes you feel like it makes you question your humanity, which I think is
And speaking of blood, hang on. My favorite line from the original Predator.
I think I know what it is.
Yeah. Jesse the Body Ventura, you're bleeding.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed.
I mean, if you want to talk about the macho bullshit lines of the 80s, it doesn't get much better than I ain't got time to bleed.
I ain't got time to bleed.
And he doesn't. He's very busy.
No. Getting ratted out by Hulk Hogan for his union. Did you watch that McMahon documentary?
Yes.
That was a great documentary, but I just love that Hulk Hogan ratted out Jesse Ventura.
I knew nothing about any of that because I wasn't a wrestling guy at all.
Right.
But I knew nothing about it and was surprised by none of it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. And I actually knew some of it too. But that's just neither here nor there. They're strong. There are female ones. The female species are actually bigger than the males.
Hello.
They're very rare. Hello.
Thick. They're thick is what you're telling me.
Yeah, 2 C's. Yeah. Their natural vision is on the infrared spectrum, but so they can see heat signatures. But I don't know. The clicking noise was made by voice actor Peter Cullen, who voiced Optimus Prime in the Autobots from
How do
Transformers.
you want a little piece of trivia here?
I love trivia. Give it to me.
Peter Cullen
Mhm.
was my father's best friend from Montreal.
No way. Wow.
Yes, my father my father and Peter Cullen were best friends. Peter eventually he did a Wolfman Jack radio show in Montreal as Wolfman. That was his first voice when he started doing voice acting.
Wow.
Peter eventually moved to Los Angeles, and him and my father were best friends. He also did the Real Ghostbusters. He's the voice on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but Peter, and his son Sky Cullen, I think his name's Sky, is a stuntman in Los Angeles.
That's cool.
Yeah, the clicking sign is what I was going to ask you about the dossier, because it's sort of a signature thing that actually it seems to get more prominent as the films go on. The clicking.
Yeah. It's something that the audiences can like hear instantly and without having to see the predator. They just know that he's there.
It's much like John Williams' Jaws score. We can play the music. I don't have to show you the shark. You know the shark's there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that it's not like some random species of like cricket or something. Like it's a human voice making something so utterly alien. Like that to me is like the ingenuity of people like, you know, Peter Cullen, who can just create such alien sounds with their mouth is crazy to me.
I
can go like dance, like go, and that's about it.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
I didn't know Peter did that, actually. I didn't know he was involved.
No, well, there you go.
Or as I call him, Uncle Peter, whatever. It's no big
Uncle
deal.
Pete. What's the coolest piece of Predator tech?
He has that almost sort of Wolverine type
those like
sword that shoots out of his hand,
yeah,
which is pretty handy for a killer. But he also has a very advanced targeting system.
Mhm.
That he actually gets sillier as the movies go on. Sometimes the target is on someone for like a while, and they're like kind of looking at it, and they're like, "Oh, that's weird. I have 3 dots on me," and then someone pushes them out of the way, which is sort of a lazy plot device. Like, this guy is a trained killer and a hunter. I don't think he puts the target on you, then holds it there for a while. I mean, the heat vision's pretty cool, because I remember watching the first one, and like, how do you even hide from this thing? Like, the deck is so stacked in the Predator's favor that like you can be hiding in the bushes and everything and completely invisible. And he's like, "Oh, there's Hayden." So if I had to pick, just because I think it looks cool, I'd probably go with the Wolverine type sword that shoots out. But I don't know what isn't clear to me is what is part of the armor and what is part of the actual creature.
They love primitive technology. Here's some stuff that I found in my reading. They were actually an engineered species. They were a slave species by this race called the Amengi.
Wait a minute, from the Connecticut Amengis?
Yeah, the Connecticut Amengis, yeah. But they're now extinct. The Utah eventually overthrew their masters and adopted their advanced. They stole their advanced technology. But that's why they're like they relish their own like ancient weapons, because
Is this real canon from the Thomas brothers, or is this like something that someone wrote in a comic book 15 years later?
This would be like a Dark Horse comic from 1992.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I can't remember exactly where the stuff went. But
my thing with villains in general, aliens or otherwise, the less I know, the better.
I tend to think so too, which actually is counterintuitive to this podcast, but
shut it down.
We're just gonna have to go back and try something else. You know what? I think it's fun. Like, I think it's fun to explore, but in a narrative environment, like when we're talking about a story that's like when they're a force of nature, all the details gets in the way.
I just like, as when I saw the film originally, you're talking to your buddies after and you're throwing around theories. I'd rather not know.
Yeah.
And just like, does that blade shoot out of a piece of armor, or does that actually come out of his body? I don't know.
I think it comes out of his armor. That's just my guess, though.
You still want him to steal Wolverine's thunder.
Yeah. I don't know about Wolverine anymore. He's too old.
Shots fired.
I know.
I didn't know this podcast was going to be so controversial.
We got to get those views on Twitter or Twitch or whatever.
I didn't know the takes were going to be this hot.
Oh, they're spicy. They're spicy takes, baby. What do you think his greatest weaknesses, the Predator? Probably the same as Alf. Like, he's too funny, right? He's too...
I think,
doesn't take anything seriously.
He is hilarious, and his one-liners are golden. You know what it probably is? I think he underestimates. I think the Predators underestimate. I mean, particularly in Prey. I think there's I think they think it's going to be a cakewalk, and they don't really factor in how scrappy humans can be.
Out of all the survivors in a Predator film, who is the most capable adversary for the Predator?
Ooh. I mean, it's not Donnie. I'm going to rule out Danny
Like,
Glover.
yeah,
Her-
Donald Glover's.
Donald
Donald
Glover's
Glover.
not even in it, so
No,
he's definitely.
what's his name? Danny
Danny.
Glover. Damn it.
I call him Danny. His friends call him Dan.
Okay.
I'm not
I got
there
it.
yet. Man, I don't know. I mean, the sort of the obvious answer would be Schwarzenegger because he's only like 3 pounds lighter than him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go back to Prey. I'm going to go back to our scrappy little heroine from that film who, she really outsmarted the way I don't want to spoil it for the folks out there, but the way she wins her battle, I think she's clearly smarter than the creature. It's a very well directed movie. It's a very well written movie. I think I would pick her. I think she is the best.
Naru, I think her name is.
I'll tell you who my least favorite was though.
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody.
Excuse me. I'm just. What the hell is going on here?
You're being hunted.
First of all, I don't want to sound like a dick. Yes, I do. But I spent most of the movie just marveling at that man's nose.
It's so big.
There's no way to light it.
No.
There's no way. In fact, early in the film, he and Danny Trejo are the two first characters we meet.
Yeah.
And you look at Danny Trejo's, the bags under his eyes, and you look at Adrian Brody's nose, and it looks like a caricature, that someone would draw at a carnival.
Yeah.
They're both so over-exaggerated. And the more I watched the movie, I kept getting taken out of it thinking, how do you like Adrian Brody? His nose has like 4 different angles on it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's bizarre. And his character is like, and then I read that he gained
The most
30...
alien thing in the film is his nose.
And I read he gained 35 pounds. And I'm like, he gained 35 pounds for that movie? He looks like a heroin addict. The whole thing, the character is...
I can gain 35 pounds in a day. Like
I put on 3 since we started the podcast. Like it's... he is my least favorite. I just thought he was horribly miscast in that movie.
I know, and I think the biggest failure of that movie is like in the first film, like they're all killers, they're all bad people, but they go out of their way to show how funny and likable they are. They're all making jokes and cracking one-liners and laughing and having a good time while they're killing people, and that actually goes a long way in making the audience feel lament when they die. With Predators, they're just all bad people. They're not being funny or endearing themselves to the audience. They're just getting killed up one by one, and they're all like rapists and murderers and shit. Like Walton Goggins' character is like so tone deaf.
There's also a big reveal in that movie that is so not a reveal. Like the premise of this film is that the Predators have picked these people as killing machines. They're like the worst of the worst from their society, but one of them just doesn't fit, and we're like, are we supposed to believe that they accidentally? But no, we know the other one's going to be a monster too.
Yeah.
And then when he reveals himself to be a monster, it's like they actually trying to sell it to you like it's
just
the
to
Sixth
spoil
Sense.
it. Like spoilers for Predators. It's what's his name? Topher
First of all,
Grace's character.
don't watch Predators. That's my
don't
spoiler
watch it.
for you.
Yeah.
Don't watch it.
Watch this
But
podcast.
the premise is that like there's one guy's from the Yakuza, one guy's from a Mexican drug cartel, one guy's they're all an Israeli sniper.
IDF,
So we have all of it. So they're all, the idea, and they brought to a planet which is essentially like a hunting planet. So the Predators are grabbing these people through some sort of portal, I guess, and bringing them here. So what they're hunting is killing machines. It's supposed to be so. And it's almost like the hunters go, hey, we're going to give the deer a rifle to make it a little bit more fun, right? And then Topher Grace shows up like, hey, everybody, what am I doing here? I'm a doctor. Yeah. And then the big third act reveal is that he's actually a serial killer, but they're selling it to us like, oh my God, Bruce Willis is dead at the end of Sixth Sense. Like we're supposed to be shocked by this reveal. And it's like, well, no shit. Like, in fact, they even have Adrian Brody say, I don't know if he doesn't belong. Like, like they're holding your hand and then they still reveal it to you as if it's a reveal. I'm like, how dumb do they think the audience
I just
is?
love the line in the movie where
I'm a murderer. I'm a freak. But here, among the monsters, I'm normal.
he's like, I'm a murderer. You're like, I don't think murderers speak like that, do they? Like, I kill people for sport. I'm a serial killer. Like, I don't.
He's
think
like back home. I'm a murderer. It's like great. We all are. Next, like, but the other thing that's weird about that movie is like the Yakuza guy has a pistol, and he fires that pistol 80 times in that movie. Yeah, he's wearing a suit and dress shoes.
He takes the shoes off, doesn't he?
Yes, because there's mud.
Yeah.
Early on in the movie, Adrian Brody's nose, or Adrian Brody, I couldn't make it out because the way it was shot.
Yeah.
One of them actually says, "Hey, let's do an ammo check," after they've just unloaded a ridiculous amount of ammo. They have no ammo on them. But after he says, "Let's do an ammo check," it's as if they said in the script, "Hey, how are we going to explain that they have an unlimited supply of ammo?" They're like, "Well, what if we just have them say we'll do an ammo check?" And they're like, "Okay, but that doesn't resolve the problem. In fact, all that does is highlight the problem." Like the one Russian guy, it looks like he has a firearm that would be mounted on a helicopter.
Yeah.
And
He has a minigun, right? That's Taktarov.
It's absurd. It's absurd. He could cut the jungle in half with that thing.
Is
But
it
he
the
never
same gun
runs out of
that
ammunition.
Jesse Ventura has in Predator? The
It's
first one?
similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Or in the fourth Rambo film, Rambo uses like an anti-aircraft gun that he carries around.
You know what's funny? I've only seen the first Rambo film. I've only seen First Blood.
Oh, so you saw the good one?
Yeah. Are they not good?
Not really. No, I mean,
Well, it never
no.
come up on this podcast, so I don't really.
Well, the
really
third
care.
one he fights. Actually, you know what? I'm not even kidding. Rambo 5 was supposed to be him fighting against a genetically. I'm not even. This is not a lie. A script was written where the U.S. military had genetically created a killing machine that was sort of half human, half beast, that then escapes, and they bring Rambo in to hunt it down.
So Rambo is brought in for things like this.
Yeah, you gotta bring in
You know,
Rambo.
this is pretty far afield from our conversation. Let's just.
I can issue. Rambo doesn't want to kill, but he's reluctant.
He's a reluctant killer. Is that
Yeah.
okay? Well, you know what? That's a good.
Do you know what's
good
interesting though? I know
premise.
we're off topic, but in the first film, Rambo doesn't kill anybody.
No, he
He-
doesn't.
He accidentally causes the death of one person who falls out of a helicopter or something.
Right.
By the third film, by the way, he fights with the Taliban, not against, with the Taliban.
What year was it?
88.
Yeah, that's.
It was still cool. It was still cool to be pro-Taliban then.
Yeah.
But by that film, he wipes out an entire army. He goes from zero to an entire army. They're bad. They're bad movies. James Cameron wrote the second one, though. Well, he wrote Alien. See? Bringing it together. He wrote those two sequels simultaneously.
And one of them's good. One of them is Rambo 2.
Rambo
First
2
Blood
originally, well, that's my favorite thing about that, friend. I know we're way off topic now. First film's called First Blood. Second movie's called Rambo, First Blood Part 2. Third movie, it's called Rambo 3. Fourth movie, it's called Rambo.
How has the Predator influenced other pop culture aliens or monsters?
I'll say this. Generally, I like alien film. Have you seen Starman?
Is Jeff Bridges?
Yeah, it's a John Carpenter film.
I've seen it, yeah.
I think I'm more intrigued by alien films where the alien is a force of good.
Yeah.
But Starman was one I thought of when you first asked about that. I mean, Carpenter made two. He also made They Live, another alien film. I'm not really big on like the alien invasion movies. I prefer things like E.T. or Starman, where the alien is a force of good or they're coming to help the planet a little bit.
What about Cocoon?
Yeah, Cocoon's a good one too. But you know what's crazy? Wilford F. Brimley in Cocoon, younger than Tom Cruise right now.
Yeah, I know.
That's wild. But Predator is, I think, is my best example of when the alien's not here for good.
Mhm.
And I much prefer when I don't want Independence Day. I don't want like full scale invasion. I like the idea that one guy pops down and like maybe no one knows he was. I mean, Predator wipes out those guys in the jungle, and then unless I could just say that, you know, when I think Schwarzenegger's name is Dutch in the first one, I could just say, wow, Dutch lost his mind in the jungle. He's, you know, he claimed he killed an 8-foot, you know, like maybe it never happened at all until we find
there was the large nuclear explosion.
Yeah, but
Like-
there'd be no carcass left, right?
Right, but I don't know how else you explain that explosion. Like I think in the sequel, Gary Busey said it was like 300 city blocks or something. Like it's a huge explosion. I don't know how he outruns it. Like it makes no sense. But
Well, he's very strong. You know, like, and Gary Busey's son Jake is in.
yeah, he plays the son
Predator,
of the character,
playing
in
the son of that
Yeah.
character, and I guarantee you, nobody knew that watching the movie.
I did. I was
Well,
like, that's Jake Busey. I recognize those teeth anywhere.
But did you know that he was supposed to be the son of the
I
character
just
from?
assumed, yeah, because his dad was in the. He has my favorite line in almost any movie, where he's just like, and it's in the intro to this podcast, where he says, "A f***ing alien."
I think I always think of Gary Busey as like a budget Nick Nolte. Like,
Yeah,
we're gonna get Nick Nolte for the part. Nolte wants $1.5 million. We're gonna get Gary Busey.
yeah.
Do you think Gary Busey was acting in Entourage?
No,
Do you think he knows he was on Entourage?
no.
I think there's a chance that he could see that running on cable and be like, what the hell?
I love that we're talking about Entourage. Why do fans still love the Predator franchise despite some stinkers?
I think John McTiernan, I mean, he made some really fantastic films. I mentioned earlier, he directed the original Die Hard. He actually directed the third Die Hard which I think is actually really underrated.
I think it's my second favorite Die Hard.
It is easily. Oh, remember, you and I went to a press screening of that last awful Die Hard, remember?
Yeah.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Russia. But I think the first film really, as I said earlier, it really holds up. And again, the look of that character, you see that character and you know right away, oh, that's that, monster that Arnold Schwarzenegger fought. So I think it holds its place in pop culture, not because the franchise is still alive and well. I think there's like 3 of them in development right now.
Yeah, there's 2. I know 2. There's Badlands, which is coming out in November. And then there's another one that's going to go to streaming before that. I don't know anything about it. But I think Prey really like proved that if you tell an emotional story with outside, irrespective of the Predator, you're going to make a good movie, and it's going to resonate with people.
Yeah.
It's when you neglect that emotional story, that's when you run into trouble. And I think that's when people don't necessarily turn out for. Because I feel like what did the Predator have? It had one-liners, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all you got, and you got like some myth building that like who gives a shit about.
That was unnecessary. I think again, like less is more for me in terms of what I know about these creatures. But I think the first film, it's kind of an iconic. I think it's an iconic alien movie. I think it's. I maintain that it is the best example of the alien who comes to Earth with ill will. And I like the idea that it's here to hunt. It's not here to steal our natural resources. It's not here to save the planet. It's not here to do experiments. It's just here for sport. Like, they treat Earth like we're going up to the cabin for the weekend. Yeah. Bring your shotgun and a case of beer.
Do you think Predators would have been a better movie if Arnold was the lead, and they had abducted Dutch again, and like?
Yeah, probably. I mean, a large part of my problem with it is I think Brody's terrible in it. Not that his acting's terrible. He's just poorly cast.
He makes really weird choices, though. He kind of like whisper talks through the whole thing. And you're like, it's like he wanted to go the opposite of Arnold. And I think in doing so, he kind of like neutralized. Because I do think Adrian Brody is a good actor. I do think he's capable of being very charming. Nose notwithstanding.
His nose is good too, though. Like, his nose can act.
His nose can act. Yeah.
His nose won an Academy Award for
the piano.
No, that was Brody.
Oh,
sorry,
right.
That was Brody.
But
he's in it, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be better with Dutch in it, because I think it would also help with the idea that it just feels like such a retread. Like, if Schwarzenegger was in it, you could literally reference it. Like, then you would have a guy. So when he's saying the stuff, he knows it because he's done it before. Yeah. Not just because he's got a hunch. So yeah, I think it would have been better with. They tried to make him cameo, I think, in the Shane Black one. I think.
Oh, really?
I think there was a discussion to have, and they also have they wanted to tie aliens into that as well. There was talk of it. Literally, they shot something, I believe, with a Sigourney Weaver stand-in, and anyway, it's a mess. I think it would have been better. I think with Schwarzenegger. He was supposed to originally be in the Predator 2. It just sort of fell apart.
That sucks. All right, we're gonna try something new here.
Oh,
I'm a studio exec. We're going to call this section, we're going to call it pitch meeting. I'm a studio executive. You're Jim and John Thomas together as one person. You're a composite character.
John.
Correct. Pitch me Predator. And I will ask questions. A little improv.
Okay. So here's the pitch.
Okay.
We've got an elite group.
Why are they elite?
They're the best of the best killing machines from the U.S. military complex. They get brought in on a black ops mission in the middle of South American jungle because a group has gone missing. They need to find out exactly what happened, and they come face to face with the biggest challenge they're ever going to get. Dot.
It's an alien. Yes. I'm in. That was good.
See the way I built suspense?
Yeah, you added an ellipsis A
Yes.
verbal ellipsis. I've never seen
Yeah.
that before.
Very rare.
All right, time for fan theories. Predator and Terminator, same universe. Their evidence. This comes from deleted. This comes from our fan theories. That whoever said it deleted it.
Brought to you by Redacted.
Yeah. So according to the novelization of Predator 2, Dutch was hospitalized due to radiation sickness from the Predator's bomb, and he vanished from the hospital and never returned. My theory states that he, having learned of Dutch's story from other military personnel, Cyberdyne Systems took Dutch and offered him to cure his radiation sickness by turning him into a cyborg, similar to what happened to Marcus Wright, who is from Terminator Salvation. After Cyberdyne turns into Skynet, Dutch was reactivated and became the T-800 seen in Terminator Salvation, and Dutch's template was used for the T-800s.
I think it's terrible.
It is pretty bad. The only evidence is that Arnold looks the same in both movies, which is not nothing, but it's next to nothing.
If you were going to create a Terminator to send back in time to kill Sarah Connor, don't you think it would be an odd choice to A, make him massive and hulking so he'd stand out in any crowd ever,
Yeah.
and B, give him an Austrian accent? I mean, it couldn't get any stupider.
Yeah. It's
The
pretty
original
stupid.
film was supposed to have Lance Henriksen, who's from Aliens, ties it all back together. And Lance Henriksen makes sense. He looks like an everyman. Lance Henriksen could walk right up to you in the mall without you going, who's that guy? But Schwarzenegger, you would see a mile away going, oh my God, look at that massive creature over there. And when he walks over, he goes, Sarah Connor, you'd be like, oh, that's an odd. Like, imagine they chose to give the robot that voice.
You know what we didn't talk about that I feel like I might drop in,
Drop back in, yes.
drop back in into the episode? That they originally cast Jean-Claude Van Damme as the Predator, and then they had to fire him because he was too short next to all these giant
Next to everybody.
beefcakes that they hired as their actors. Like he's 5'9" and everyone's over 6 foot, and he looks like a little shrimp. And they're like, we need somebody who's a little more physically imposing. So they hired Kevin Peter Hall, who's 7'2".
Yeah. He died at 35 years old, Kevin Peter, of AIDS. He had a blood transfusion from a car accident.
Oh my God.
So if you want to know how to kill the Predator, apparently it's a blood transfusion. Maybe they gave him that green blood. Too soon for AIDS jokes? Gotcha.
No, I think that's perfectly timed for an
He
AIDS
was
joke.
actually, I think he was doing the Harry and the Hendersons TV series when he died.
That's sad.
The guy who played Jason in the remake of Friday the 13th played the old school Predator, the one that's tied up in Predators. It
Right.
looks like that's Derek Mears who played Jason.
Oh, cool.
I think he's like 6'5" or something.
6'5" is not that tall. He isn't Rich
No.
6'5".
You don't think he's a predator, do you?
I do. I mean, I've
He
seen,
is.
I've seen some of the people he's dated. Yeah.
That's true.
All right. This one comes from Two Real Ghost. Predator was actually an extraterrestrial peacekeeper and not a predator at all. In the original Predator movie, the Predator only killed American soldiers that were operating illegally in a foreign country. He left the natives that were hostile alone. He only began killing the soldiers after he witnessed them harming others. All of his kills were quick and painless as possible. He did not kill anyone that was unarmed. In the climactic battle, once the Predator learns that Dutch is weaponless, he removes all of his weaponry to make it a fair fight. Predator activates a suicide bomb after being mortally wounded by one of Dutch's booby traps in an attempt to protect other innocents from the real Predator, Dutch.
Better.
Yeah.
But
It's
why?
hard. It's hard
but
finding
why is-
fun. Alpha's
why-
a lot better for fan theories. I'm not going to lie.
Why is he coming here to peacekeep in the first place? He just doesn't
Maybe he's
what's
like
going on.
the Green Lanterns. He's part of a corps.
I much prefer the idea that he's here to hunt.
Yeah. Cinematically,
this-
it's much more interesting. The Predator being denied a bank loan.
Oh.
What do you think?
What was he going to use the money for? Like, what did he need the loan for?
He wanted to open up a restaurant. AI is so stupid. And then I like this one. Where
That's when he's
shaking-
mad. Where he's like, what do you mean?
This is the beach dance. Two predators making out
Oh,
on the beach.
this is kind of like Rocky III, the training montage on the beach with Apollo and Stallone when they go for a gay frolic in the surf.
So this is my. I wanted to do a Last Supper with aliens, and I said, I said Last Supper with, the Xenomorphs, aliens, and Alf. This is Predator
DJ.
Yeah. Another. Predator.
Oh, okay. Drop that
And then
beat.
this
Oh,
is I wanted Predator wearing a thong.
hey, welcome to the club. This top is ill-fitting.
They're all filthy. It's time for a segment I like to call Mary Probe Kill.
Mary Probe Kill. Mary Probe Kill.
It's like Mary Kill.
I pieced it together.
Okay, good. Glad. Sometimes people don't
So
piece things together.
So the probe is replaced. I can't.
Yeah. Predator,
Mm-hmm.
Xenomorph, and then those little guys from Mars Attack.
I'm going to marry the little guys from Mars Attacks.
Wow. They don't even speak English. Actually, none of them do.
None of them speak English. How would you communicate? I'm going to kill the Xenomorph.
Right.
I just don't feel like we'd ever have anything in common. And that leaves me probing the Predator. Do I get a tool?
I was going to say, would you sleep? We have another segment called Sexy Close Encounters. And it's like, how much would it cost? Like, how much would you have to be paid to sleep with a predator?
Well, I haven't seen these female predators, but I hear they're thick with two C's.
The toothies.
Well, I feel like there's no chance. Again, I'm not having sex with the Xenomorph because of the acid situation.
Yeah.
Because there's quite a bit of blood.
And the little mouths within the
way
mouth.
I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
imagine getting a blowjob from them.
Hang on. No.
No.
Man, the little Mars Attacks, actually, that was on when you told me to pick one. I thought about them briefly because I do love the design of those. Love it.
There's going to be a Mars Attacks episode for sure. All right. We have another segment called Alien versus Predator. This is normally when we ask the guests how they think their alien would fare up against the Predator. But in this case, Predator versus Predator, that seems like a fair fight. And we've seen that sort of play out in the films to pretty poor degrees.
In Predators, one beheads the other one.
Yeah. So my question to you is, can you think of an alien that might be able to go toe-to-toe with the Predator?
Well, I mean, there's a few in the Marvel universe that I think...
like Thanos?
Yeah, I think would probably make short work of the Predator.
Right. But those are PG.
Well,
are they bound by PG law?
They would do it off camera.
Oh wow! Yeah,
you would just see the results.
Yeah,
but,
you'd see what's her name, Scarlett Johansson covered in like the yellow blood, and she's like, "Oh, that was gross."
Yeah,
it's a callback to one of those Marvel movies.
Yeah, I mean, there are some very all-powerful alien beings that I think But I mean, just for fun, I'd like to see E.T. go up against the Predators. See E.T. get shredded.
We like to ask our guests here, starting now. We haven't. I didn't ask in the first episode because I forgot. Do you believe in aliens?
Yes, I do. I think it's almost arrogant to think that we're the only thing out there.
Yeah.
Do I believe that aliens have been here? That's a different question.
Yeah.
But do I think there's other intelligent life out there? I mean, the universe is just too big to think that we're alone in it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's, to me, is what works in favor of there being aliens and also against having been visited by aliens, because the universe is, like you said, it's so big. What are the chances of them finding us? Like
statistically, it's hard to believe we're alone. The only problem with any story, in my mind, where an alien comes to Earth is they would have to be so far advanced to us that the idea that we win the alien invasion, or that we come out on top on Independence Day, I find highly improbable, which again goes back to what I said earlier. I like the story where it's just one. Because then I think it's a little more feasible. You know, like the
personal too.
E.T. shows up, he's scared, he's alone, he's been abandoned. Like, that makes sense to me. But they would have to be just so far advanced from where we are just to get here.
Yeah.
Because, like, we went to the moon, we showed up, we walked around a little bit, and we were like, okay, we're done. And that was 1969. Since then, we've hit no other planets. We've not come close. I mean, we've sent machinery to Mars, but we can't go there. So, yeah, I believe that there's intelligent life out there. Now, it could be a puddle for all we know. I don't think it looks like us.
A smart puddle.
Super smart puddle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. I definitely think that there's something out there.
I agree. Shout outs. Anything you want to shout out this week?
Yeah, I want to shout out a book that I've read multiple times, and it has our boy Pelicano in it.
Oh.
It's called High Concept. It's a book about a filmmaker named Don Simpson. It is my favorite book on the industry. I just reread it again. I read it every maybe 6-7 years. It's about Don Simpson, the filmmaker that used to partner with Jerry Bruckheimer. He made films like Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop, Days of Thunder. It is the best book on the motion picture industry that's ever been made. The wretched excess of this man's life. I have a company, my production company is called 21 Toxins Entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's named after Don Simpson because when he died, they found 21 different toxins in his system. 21! It is the best book on the film industry. I highly, highly recommend it.
Would you care to explain to the audience what a high concept movie is?
Okay, yeah, there's a great scene in the movie too where he's reading an article in a magazine and it shows a pilot wearing a bomber jacket standing in front of a jet airplane. And he called a writer in and he said, "Write me this movie." So the high concept to him was, it's Tom Cruise in a bomber jacket. Like, that's the movie. It's high concept is like, you got that one sentence.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Alien Autopsy. We came, we saw, we talked about Adrian Brody's nose, and we discussed the Predator ad nauseum. I feel like we all know what we need to know about the species of the Predator. And
what's it called again?
What, Yauta, I think. I don't know. I didn't go to pronunciation.com, if that's a website. Should be. But thank you for joining me. And if you want to get in touch with us, if you have any questions or emails, please email the podcast at alienautopsypod@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Hello, Threads, all Alien Autopsy Pod. At Alien Autopsy Pod. I forgot the @ sign. Oh, God.
But you still call it Twitter, too.
I will refuse to call it X. I can't call it X because then I'm going to say X. I'm going to give it to you, which is DMX. Anyways,
DMX.
Thank you for joining me, Rob, Big Bad Bobby Hynes. Appreciate it. And thank you so much for being here. And keep searching, everybody. Bye.